Shir HaShirim. Friday nights, the Halabi community has a minhag to recite Shir HaShirim. So we'll delve into a few different points. Firstly, why is Shir HaShirim recited? Secondly, when is Shir HaShirim recited? And thirdly, who is it recited by and how? So let's start with the first thing as to why Shir HaShirim is recited. So initially, the Hachamim talk about Shir HaShirim in connection to Hag Pesach. Hag Pesach has to do with the Geulah, with the redemption. And Shir HaShirim talks about that same Geulah. And since the Geulah is mentioned in Shabbat, and we were saved from the slavery in Egypt, Hag Pesach, and Hag Pesach is mentioned here, so we repeat this Shir HaShirim, or recite rather Shir HaShirim on Leil Shabbat to remind us if Bnei Yisrael observes 2 Shabbatot, or at least one more Shabbat, because according to tradition, one was already observed by all of Am Yisrael. If a second one is observed by all of Am Yisrael, then the entire nation will be redeemed. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2, which is the more commonly heard reason that we hear today, is that Shir HaShirim is Kodesh Kadashim, alright, and which is the most holy of holies. As we know, we refer to Shabbat as Shabbat Kodesh, and since this is Kodesh and that is Kodesh, the proper time to recite Shir HaShirim is on Shabbat. For that reason, the Halabi community recites Shir HaShirim every Erev Shabbat. Now, when on Erev Shabbat is it recited? First, let's talk about Halab and what was done over there for centuries. Shir HaShirim was initially recited in Halab after Arbit. After Arbit was finished, people would enter the Me'ara of the Siddiqim, the cave where the Hachamim were buried, and they had a tradition that Eliyahu HaNabi appeared over there, and they would recite Shir HaShirim over there. Now, there were other minhagim that developed in Halab as to what point to recite Shir HaShirim, and those were the other minhagim that obviously carried it forth to America and to the other Halabi diasporas throughout the world, because obviously we do not have this cave of Siddiqim to go recite Shir HaShirim in. So there were 3 minhagim. There's minhag number 1 that was recited between Minha and Kabbalat Shabbat, and minhag number 2 that it would be recited towards the end of Kabbalat Shabbat. So technically we would say Mizmor David, Lechadudi, Mizmor Shir Shabbat, B'mei Madlikin, followed by Kaddish. Then Shir HaShirim would be recited, and then the second Mizmor Shir Shabbat would be said. So those were the 2 main minhagim. The third minhag that seems to have developed much later, and possibly even outside of Halab, and that is to recite Shir HaShirim prior to Minha. So you would say Shir HaShirim, and then Minha, then Kabbalat Shabbat, then Arbit. So these are the 3 minhagim. All 3 minhagim have been practiced in the United States as well as in other Halabi communities. Now, who says Shir HaShirim? As opposed to other communities where just Hazanim would individually recite one perek at a time. In other words, one Hazan would recite one entire perek, then another Hazan would recite another perek, and so on and so forth until all 8 perakim would be completed. The Halabi community has a minhag for the entire kahal, the entire congregation, to recite Shir HaShirim with its ta'amim in unison. Now, there's another minhag that you'll see in some synagogues that developed, that they would basically have a give and take with Shir HaShirim. With one side of the knis, the people would recite Pasuk A, and the other side of the knis would then respond with Pasuk B, followed by the initial side going to C, the next side D, back and forth like that, a give and take. That is not the real minhag. That's something that was developed in different congregations, it seems by different Hazanim or different Hachamim, to get the people more involved because they may have been slacking off. but the real minhag, and that the minhag is prevalent throughout all our congregations, is for the entire congregation, both old and young, to learn the ta'amim and to recite Shir HaShirim together from beginning to end. Shir HaShirim is completed. The Hacham or Hazan would recite the final prayer of the Shir HaShirim, Ribon Kol HaOlamim, and Kaddish would not be recited after that. Rather, we go straight into either what we talked about before, either Minha or into Kabbalat Shabbat, or either into the Mizmor Shir Shabbat, the second one. And that's the Minhag of Shir HaShirim.